This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, welcome to the April 9th meeting of the Arlington Senior Democratic Lunch. And we're going to talk to two school board candidates, both of whom will just slide and pass the laptop back and forth. Why don't I get out of your way? And why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and this is you and this is obviously Karen and
Hi,
anybody
Karen.
else who joined.
Great to see you. Karen, I'm going to put you in here so I can look at both you and our fellow members here sitting in front of us. So you're part of the group here. Wonderful to see you and thank you all for coming out. My name is Zuraya Tapia-Hadley. I am a candidate for Arlington County School Board. I'm a 20-year Arlingtonian. I have two boys in the school system. They're 9 and 11. And really my husband and I decided to make Arlington home because of the strong school system and how exceptional we are here in Arlington. I'm running because I want to be sure that we continue to be exceptional. And I think I bring a specific set of skills to do that. More about myself. I was trained as a lawyer. I'm a lawyer by training. Oh yeah, let me pause because they're serving the food, Karen.
Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. No, good. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you. I am a lawyer by training. So I started my career in law, working in international trade, but I had interned on the Hill in Congress and always felt a commitment to public service and a draw to public policy. So very early in my career, I worked on the Hill for Congresswoman Eddie Velasquez. And that led me to a career in the nonprofit world. From the Hill, then I moved into advocacy. So I was an advocate for almost 10 years for various organizations and institutions, national and international nonprofits. I led the Hispanic National Bar Association for 4 years. I then worked for the U.S.-Mexico Foundation. And through those experiences, constantly being on the Hill, developing strategic partnerships with both the public and private sector, those skills are what led me to then the corporate world, where I've been for the last 8 years. I worked at UPS, and then I worked for UPS, for Meta, Facebook, and that was my role prior to my current role, where I'm at Univision, the Spanish language broadcaster, doing government and public affairs for Univision. So what that gives me is a history of, one, going through very tough policy challenges, figuring it out, working constructively, again, with both the private and public sector, and developing creative solutions to solve tough problems, which we're going to face in APS, especially with the budget constraints we're facing. I'm a communicator. One of the reasons I'm running is because I feel we could do a lot better in transparency and communication with our families, teachers, and staff, and the county school board. So I would hope to be a school board member that's going to help continue to improve that process and ensure better and more effective communication. I'm running also for my kids and all of our kids to make sure that our schools remain high quality and also serving all students, no matter where you're from. I mentioned in my announcement remarks, not just for those who are loud advocates for themselves and their families, but more importantly, for the more muted voices that don't have the resources, ability, or aren't able to be at school board meetings to advocate for themselves. My plan is to go out into communities, hear and really understand the real world impact of the school board decisions, understand the needs, and bring that back to the school board. That's my commitment, and that's why I'm running. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Larry.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Larry Fishtahler. I'm running for the school board. I am, I think, a candidate that has the longest involvement with Arlington Public Schools. I have been my first role involvement was as the LULAC Council 4606 advocate for our Latin American students. We've had a long-term problem with achievement gaps. I worked very hard on closing those gaps. For that, I was received the Honored Citizen Award. And at the same time, I was the LULAC representative that went out to join forces with the NAACP and filed an amicus brief for opening up access to our choice schools. So that was the start. I also served as the chair of the Science Advisory Committee, the co-chair of the Advisory Council on Instruction, which is now called the Advisory Council on Teaching and Learning. And then I was elected to be president of the County Council of PTAs. So my involvement as an advocate has been long, strong, deep, broad. So I bring that to the table. I have two children, Eduardo and Camila. Both of them have gone all the way through Arlington Public Schools, kindergarten through graduating from Yorktown. My wife is a Spanish teacher, Elba Barastegui. She taught Spanish, finished her career at Yorktown after many years, and now she does substitute teaching at Escuela Key. So what I want to stress next is that the thing that I think distinguishes me more relevantly right now is that I have, in the last 2 years, been doing long-term sub jobs as a teacher in Arlington Public Schools. So I have a view of what actually happens in the school system. It's one thing to work at a policy level. It's another thing to understand how that filters down into the schools and what problems. There have been several problems recently, and with policies or implementations of policies that have not gone well from within the school's view. So I bring that particular experience. So if you explain what you're thinking of? So I don't want to get in too far into the details of this, but let me mention this. As an example of what I'm talking about is there was in February 22nd, there was a report to the school board and the community in general. It's televised. The Science Advisory Committee, I mean, the Science Supervisors report on academic achievement. There's nothing in there that reflects at all the urgency of the fact that half of our minority students are not passing SOL. They don't get a verified credit. That means they don't graduate with a standard diploma. There are two opportunities to do that. One of them is as a freshman in biology. Most of the Latin or English language learners or African American or other minority students don't pass that. This is also something that has been a problem post-COVID, especially. So in that report, there's nothing urgent here. There's no plan how to get well. And I can tell you from seeing from within the school, the efforts that are being made. The problem is to penetrate in being a school board member, you're doing governance. You're not managing. You're not going to be the assistant superintendent in charge of everything. So you're going to be managing, not managing, but governing. It used to be, there is a policy on the relationship between the board and the superintendent and the rest of his administration. That says that you can talk to the superintendent, you can get information from senior management. I've actually gone and found out what senior management means. It turns out that it's one layer down. One layer down, when that policy was written, was the assistant superintendent in charge of instruction. The science supervisor reported directly to her. We never had, when I was chair of the science advisory committee, we had regular meetings with the science supervisor. There are now 3 layers of management between the superintendent and the science supervisor. He's hidden. He's packed down, way down in the organization. That has to change, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm talking about. Let me just quickly move through. Yeah. There's a bloated senior manager here. All right. Let me just quickly kind of wrap up here. My previous professional experience was as a systems engineer. I worked at the highest levels of NASA's development programs on space station and on climate change research out at Goddard Space Flight Center in the Earth Sciences Directorate. In those jobs, I learned how you do collaboration, how you look at your budget, how you make selections, how you make the tough choices between what's funded and what is not funded. Let me just close by saying that I think that this job is going to take a lot of work. We are, as Zuraya correctly said, we are facing real budget worries here coming at us. There are structural budgeting problems, and we need to have experience in how to handle that kind of stuff. I think it's going to take a lot of work on whoever is elected. And now I want to make sure everybody understands there are 2 open seats. There are 4 candidates. You see 2 of them here today. I think some of us are going to have to spend not just part-time, but full-time work. I'm retired. My kids are now young professionals. I can afford to devote myself totally to doing this, and I will do that. So thank you very much.
First question, just stay there.
Okay.
Let's
Slide over.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are the top 3 things that each of you would want to focus on if you got elected? Okay, as a school board member, and flip a coin. First,
Well, one, like I said, I think communication is crucial because, so yeah, same. I think communication is crucial because the reality from what I'm sensing and in talking to teachers, especially staff and families, while we have a wonderful system, there's been an erosion of trust. And that erosion of trust causes people to operate from a place of fear instead of a place of positivity and abundance. And as long as we're operating from a place of fear, we are not serving our kids or our teachers or staff. So to change that, it's not one thing. There has to be a cultural shift to be more transparent and to communicate better. The way that I would do that is again, I would make a point as a school, remember to, yes, leverage the open office hours. Yes, go to my assigned schools, of course. But beyond that, like go where the communities are, whether it's a lunch like this one, or whether it is the Bolivian festival happening in Arlington, whatever it is, to go out where families and communities are. So help bridge that trust. Also the methods and the way we communicate right now is based on technology. I would want to come in and take a look at how we are communicating, especially with parents. Not all parents get our messages. Parents that are not English dominant are not reading those messages, is the bottom line. We've stopped using WhatsApp as a way of, because individual schools use WhatsApp, especially in the non-English speaking communities. But there are individual schools. There has to be a way for APS to retake that back up, have a digital coordinator that manages that, to get parents the message like a text message, just bullet points, tell them what they need to know. That's a way to communicate with parents. So I would really focus on that to start. Of course, then there's a broader, in terms of on the budgetary side, we have to look at our short, medium, and long-term plans to keep hopefully raising wages for teachers, keep adding up our COLA steps, which we need to do. So I would really try to focus on how can we do that in the medium and long term. What are the things we have to look at in the budget? So those are two. And then the third would be safety. I really care a lot about making sure that both teachers, staff, and kids all feel safe and welcome at school. If they don't feel safe and welcome, hence we have truancy, right? That's why they don't go, and they don't learn. And by safety, I mean both infrastructure, are our schools safe? I mean processes. My kids were in Claremont, across the street from Wakefield, when a lockdown happened. There's been some progress made. There were some gaps there back then that I understand have been addressed. But the gaps in communication there could be disastrous were it a real emergency, right? So that, as well as just mental health and the issues of substance abuse that we're facing in schools. And to achieve that, again, it's a lot about communication, knowing what's going on with the kids, and then taking that step too, to develop partnerships, but with the county to serve families, not just the kids, but parents may need support too, social emotional health support, right? So I would want to work with the county to take some of the county resources, make sure parents understand the resources they have for themselves and their children, as well as work with law enforcement, certainly not in the sense of being punitive, but in the sense of making sure that they're a partner with us, and honestly, we're all on the same side.
Okay, just one quick.
Yeah.
That I'm feeling. What people feel fears?
I think everyone. I think the administration, they fear for their roles, right? They fear that they're going to be punished or criticized or ostracized or could lose their job, right? And I think that shifts the way you work. So I think let's work with them and not make them feel that way. Like why do they feel that way, right? Staff and teachers, same thing, that they will be, they have a fear of speaking up and pointing out when things are wrong. We can't have that in a constructive school system, right? I think starting with those two huge elements is crucial.
Larry,
Yeah.
top three.
Okay. Let me just follow on from what Zuraya was saying about fear and security. Last year, on February 2nd, was the beginning of my second semester. I took over for an earth science special ed teacher, very senior. She just was exhausted, could not do it any longer. She and I had worked together before. She asked me to come in and take over and finish the year for her. I did. The second day on the job I was in the room when Wakefield shut down. The person that caused that shutdown was one of our students. So there she is, sitting in the back of the room, in tears, madly texting to see, to the case manager, to the counselor, to see if the kid was okay. So has it improved? Yes. Is it there? No. Wakefield is not secure. And I go there anyhow, even though, but nobody there feels totally secure. It's just a nightmare to cover all of the doors. Kids, seniors can go out for lunch and come back, and there's a lot of in and out, and just managing the flow of students is a difficulty. So this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about when I talk about knowing what's going on in the school. You get a different story if you just take the PR stuff that comes out from the administration. It's not real. We have really real problems. We have problems. We have problems with drug addiction. We have trouble with gang violence. You need to stop happy talk, face reality, and deal with it. My main mission is to prevent this loss of serious of experience, expertise from the school system, losing teachers left and right. There are lots who are ready to leave this year because it's just too much. Class sizes are way too much. You just cannot give the attention that is needed to each and every student in your classroom. I was teaching physics in a classroom, 28 seats, 30 and 31 students. Can't do it. What's even worse, the real problem with that is that if you're not giving each and every student the right amount of attention, then they're not going to pay attention. So they get disengaged from the study. That's the worst part of it. And I don't think people get that. The other really big problem, and Zuraya is very right about this, is money. And we're going to be having to face difficult budget questions. And my priority is make sure that we are not losing talent and expertise, that we are being able to hire the students the new teachers that we can, and that we fund things that we need in order to get students to graduate. If we have to go and do a one-time thing with the county and say, look, maybe there are infrastructure things that are not going to fall apart if you don't do it this year. But students who haven't passed their science class or any of the other SOLs they need for a standard diploma, that's a lifelong thing on them. And we need to prioritize that.
Any questions from the audience?
Yes.
So twice, not twice, I mean, month, follow the money. So school, you try to be too crowded, harder to get teachers, the pay is not high enough, even though it's better in this region than a lot of places. How do you get out of very tight budgets? That and help for mental health, particularly.
So I am hoping that this is one of the items where we can get the county to step up and do more in regard to that. And there are several programs that they have now. One of them is related to rehab students. There are several other things that the county can do, because this is not a problem particular to the school. So I'm hoping that that kind of thing, cooperating with the county board and that kind of stuff. Again, cooperating with the county board on their funding. They're the ones that have to determine the tax rate. One of the things that I'm willing to do, I have no political ambitions at all, outside of doing a good job for the schools. So if they need somebody to go out there and make the case to the citizens of Arlington about why we need to fund the schools better, and why that means that we are going to ask for higher taxes, I'm willing to go and make that case. I think there's also things that we can do to get, we have all of these companies who are making huge amounts of money on AI research, being funded by the Defense Department. And we need to get them to start funding how we're going to use this in the schools, because the kids already do. I'm the only person, as far as I know, who's had building administration authorization to use artificial intelligence by the students to do their classwork. It's not easy. You can't just bring it in and do it. There's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do about protection and stuff like that. But that's another source of funding. The other thing is that we have unique capabilities in hiring. The collegiality that we have developed in the culture in our schools is phenomenal. We're not going to be able to outdo Loudoun County probably in terms of how much they pay for teachers, but we have other aspects that will make us attractive.
Thank you. So I have two things. One, for example, the county manager's estimate in terms of revenue came in higher than expected. It exceeded APS's projections. So this is great in that, okay, we have a little bit of a buffer coming in, about $6 million more than we thought, right? As Larry said, over 70% of our budget comes from the county. So really, to address these budget challenges, the key is going to be in the discussions happening right now at the county level of what is the tax increase that they're going to propose. They have three options on the table, a 1.5, a 2, and a 2.5 cent increase, right? So with that, depending where that falls, we could be in a better or worse shape. So that is crucial. I would, of course, encourage and want to work with the county. I would encourage them to go as high as possible, and would want to work with them to do that. In Fairfax, so you know, they just approved a higher tax rate. Also in Alexandria City, Alexandria just passed a 4-cent increase, just to give you a sense, right? So I think that those that's one way to address the issue. Federal funding is, oh sure, that's one way to address the issue, through that increasing what's coming into the county, because that's just most of the budget. Then alternatively, also looking at other potential sources of revenue. Larry touched on the private sector. In Arlington, industries like power, Amazon, etc., Amazon and others are forced to pay into our utilities, Arlington utilities. They are forced to pay into other aspects of county budget. They are not, and in a lot of external counties, businesses have to also pay into the public school system. That's not the case in Arlington County. So that needs to change. So those are just two ways that I would propose to change that.
Just to elaborate on that point.
Yeah.
Is it as a result of the sessions-based
Correct.
order and
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, another question from our distinguished audience.
Could you tell us how the teacher salary scale compares with the salary or other school districts in the Washington metropolitan region?
We're in the range, but we're like third, fourth right now.
So, well, Fairfax.
Yes.
Behind Alexandria.
So that's why, yeah,
Douglas County.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Maryland. Yeah, and that's the other thing is when you adjust it for the cost of living in Arlington, that's why a lot of teachers live in Fairfax.
And for that reason, I would also support the policies that help teachers live here too, which is affordable housing, which is also allowing their kids to study in the county, right? Those are things that can be helpful. And paid leave, family leave, those situations.
Well, one question we asked, and explain to the audience that we had the other candidates already. The one question we asked them was about Jefferson High School of Technology and the sense that urban and priority. Where do you folks stand on?
Go, you can start.
Let me just put it this way. The makeup of that school is an embarrassment. It's also a fact. It's also different than choice schools in Arlington because our choice schools are not based on achievement. So the way that selection of students is done is different. It's done with a different purpose. I don't like it. I think it can be changed so that it's much more equitable. But that's a change that we have to lobby. And in the current political environment, we need some changes
Well,
to make that happen.
Their seat or the way that I'm allocated its
The selection process is based on achievement. And so that's not how we do things here. We don't do that. Well, so this is what the lawsuit was about, the one that LULAC and NAACP. Unfortunately, we did not prevail in that lawsuit. So that you just sign up for it. And
there's more people signing for TJ than we have Arlington seats for. How do we pick the Arlington people to go in the Arlington?
I think right now it's done on a season level.
So yeah, and I'll be honest, I need to look more into this topic, so I won't try to solve it for you right now. I'll admit I need to look more into this, but what I can tell you is, and my kids aren't in option school, so what I can tell you is that either way, my approach would be, again, we have to talk to the stakeholders. I would start by talking with families who are at TJ, and by talking with the families on the wait list or trying to get in, and with the sitting school board to better understand. This is my approach. My approach is I want to be the best informed, get in, just have this discussion from the direct stakeholders, right? Who is at the end of that? Who's getting the service at the end of the day? Who needs it? Understand their needs, understand the possibilities, and based on that, then work with everyone and figure out what the best solution would be. And what the issue is. Is it the issue that we need more seats, that we need less, and then figure out where to go from there? Set the goal and then set a plan.
What is the percentage?
I think someone like 15 of
Yeah.
each school year. But
So it's not the population.
it's done when we pay for the fee. And anytime when you make school, you pay that portion of the renovation. So like, so
So if we were to pay more, we could get seats.
no,
Yeah, I don't think so.
if the deal to the structure, you give it one.
So you can't just say, oh, there's another one, fine. That's a
Could you
wonderful
repeat the
school.
question?
Sometimes
Could
it-
you repeat the question?
I've subbed there as well years ago. Ah, very good.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because a lot of bright young kids have opportunity.
It's regardless of the pipe runs behind it. You have a very good percentage. That's what they think. It's not.
It's more like a junior college.
Could you repeat the question?
That would be an equity issue, right?
It's an embarrassment in terms of equity.
What was the question?
Yes, we could ask the flip question, like, what would it take to get, all in high school to be just as competent
I would say that we shouldn't be trying to fix everything. We should focus on APS and how do we make APS a pipeline to the Ivy League, right? Which I know everybody wants to.
What was the question?
Oh, Bob was saying that begs, and this is what I was thinking too. Then the flip of that is why don't we focus, how to make it so that APS is the desirable, it's just as desirable as Top Chef or something.
all.
All three of them. Yeah.
But I think, in fact, they are. There are certain people who think that their student really needs to go to Cornell or Duke or one of those, but not everybody's like that. And they recognize I actually have had a student who was admitted to Harvard from Yorktown. So they exist. My daughter got into William and Mary, which is a very highly ranked, almost Ivy League. They keep going back with Harvard as to which one is the oldest and most famous.
Okay, but that does lead to a legitimate question. Is how would the Arlington School Board go about identifying the goals and objectives for measuring school quality, school desirability? I mean, well, if you are a old Ivy League grad and say, well, how many Ivy League students get accepted? If you were a big advocate from foreign service, say, well, how much foreign language instruction there is and how many kids you have studying Chinese and Hindi, so the different people can have different goals and ideas. So what I need to know from my candidates, how would you go about organizing the process to come up with some coherent standards of measure of high school quality?
Yeah. Well, I'll say a couple things. One, I think we have a lot of what you just mentioned already, right? Which is the great thing. APS has the above. The challenge is we also have a very diverse community, and some parents will think that unless the school's all going to an Ivy League, it's not successful. I don't believe that's how you measure success. I would go in and measure success based on a couple of things. One, growth. I think we spend too much time teaching to the test and marking the S. Of course, everyone needs to meet standards. We'll need to get them all there. But in that process, teachers that that are having success in moving students ahead and in demonstrating growth, they don't get the accolades because their student still isn't hitting that red line, right? I think we should be giving those teachers the accolades. If they're demonstrating consistent growth, I think that's more important than a student that's above the bar but is dropping, right? So, and I know that the administration is looking at this, and this is something that they're working on, and I totally agree with this approach. So growth and a growth-focused approach, I think, is crucial, because if you don't encourage both the student and the educators and staff, we're not going to get there. Would you want to go into a workplace every day where you're just being told what you're doing wrong? No, no one wants that, right? So I think we have to push push folks, but measure growth. Two, focus more than focusing on one type of achievement, give achievement a broader focus. I say my platform is about making sure everyone is learning, feeling supported, has learning, creativity, and support. I think those are the things. Are they learning? Are they getting to be creative? And do they have other support that they may need? Those are the things that I would want to measure also the school system by. And if we do that, I think the achievement then comes second. We're not going to get achievement if we don't have those foundational blocks in place.
Yeah, well, so first of all, we do have IB and AP programs, and you can look at the measures of how those students are doing in those classes. What are their scores coming out, and how many are there? But also, crucially, I want to see equity in students who are participating in those classes. Do we have minority students who are being encouraged and supported taking those classes? And are they getting the attention that they need? You cannot I taught in the same room with the guy who's at Wakefield who is teaching the AP physics. And he's got 28 students. That's not good. It's hard to give students at that level the amount of attention. Otherwise, all you're doing is giving practice tests and stuff like that. So there's that. In general, you just need to get your stress levels down, class sizes down. You need to make improvements in counseling and other support services to see the achievement. I totally agree with Zuraya about looking at growth. I also want to make sure that we are graduating everybody with a standard diploma that's eligible and doing well, and making sure that parents are understanding what their students are doing, how they're performing. And Zuraya is exactly right about reaching out to parents who are not totally engaged and desperate to get their student into Cornell. We need to make sure that they understand the quality that their students are getting, their progress, and get them involved, because that's how it works. Parents asking the students, so, if you have large class sizes, it's a problem getting students to stop fiddling with their cell phones. I make students use their cell phones, take pictures of the agenda of the day, and then I make them put away and do instruction, and then take them out and take a picture. Some of the students have more physics on their cell phones than they do in their notes.
Or in their brain.
Well, I don't go that far. But and then parents can see what was the agenda? What did you do in physics today? So I'm not an enemy of technology, but I think we need to use it much more wisely.
One more thing I forgot to add. I also think it's important that we have instructors, right, that support teachers. But those instructors are just for the teachers. They don't actually interact with the kids. From a policy standpoint, if we could change that so that those experts in their field, whether it's reading, that can support teachers with the kids as well, like can actually be kid facing, child facing, I think that would make a huge difference.
One other, each of the high schools has coordinator for advanced studies. And I've worked with them before. I wrote a recommendation for one of my students to go to governor's summer school in marine science. So students should be aware of those programs, and parents should be aware that you have to go around, talk to your teachers, get you to write recommendations, go. Yeah.
The other question that came up, we always ask is, what about community use of schools policy? Where do you two stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a reality, right? I mean, the county owns a lot of what is like school recreational fields already. They're technically county property, not school property. So I see a lot of also dual use in the sense of children playing. My kids are in sports, so I see it every weekend. The fields at schools are full. But I also see people from the neighborhood playing the basketball court or what have you. So I would, as a school board member, be highly encouraging of that kind of community-centered approach. I think it also helps kids. I think this is one of the reasons kids aren't doing as well. It's because they are less connected to community. I am all about trying to find more bridges between seniors and kids. We've seen that. Science proves it. It helps everyone's well-being if the more we have those kinds of exchanges and mentorship, et cetera. So I would welcome those exchanges.
So let me just say, from my perspective, having been in the school the school is really the center of the social life of kids. Sometimes I think classes are the annoying distraction from their otherwise rich social life. So yes, to the maximum extent, build out from each of the schools a community. There are also services that the schools can provide otherwise, just as meeting places, as places for people to go use the library. In the heat of the summer, community can come in, use the building to just get out of the heat and socialize. Schools should be social centers. So,
Other questions from the audience? Go ahead.
I just want to go back to the budget again. What are the policies? And increasing teachers' pay as a priority. I mean, so many things from, the lack of highly qualified teachers. So we're hostile.
I'm sorry, is
Is the county hostile to increase pay? Or is it just they say the money's not there?
well, the main thing is that no politician wants to go out and say we need to increase taxes.
Get that. It's
So-
dry.
And so they need support. They need school board members who can go out to the community and explain to them the urgency of retaining teachers, especially veteran teachers, high quality teaching. They have to make the case. The county board gets stuck with paying for it, but it's the school board who really has to make the case that yes, this portion of the budget needs to go up, and here's the reasons why. We need it in order to to get the quality, retain the experience. Can't do it otherwise.
I think Larry explained the county politics, which is the tax issue. The school board level, what I see is that there's much support to, I see everyone trying to figure out, and we saw it in the superintendent's proposed budget. Teacher pay is really a focus of how do we keep making it better and safeguard it. I see consensus around we have to keep improving on teacher pay. That is great, and as a school board member, I would be an advocate for that. And educators' working conditions are students' learning conditions. So I am certainly an advocate of that as well.
But the only thing I have that's in my not is county school bond campaign, and their school board picks certain spokesmen, and they go out, and I put yard signs up all over the place, vote yes for the school bond. So I've never seen any equivalent massive PR initiative for let's fund some tax increases for teacher salaries for physical buildings.
Yes, that's a great idea, Bob. And actually, the one time I testified, or I signed up to speak at the school board meeting, it was a year and a half ago when they were going to cut health benefits for staff. It was like extended day staff, which I saw that the potential disaster there happening, that then for the same amount of pay and more benefits, they're going to go work elsewhere, and then you're going to be left with families with no extended day. So I spoke as a taxpayer. Look, we're in a wealthy county. We've got to be able to figure this out. We're in a wealthy county. I will happily pay more in taxes for that. I'm already paying taxes. That education, that is one that I do not feel badly about my money going there, right? So I take your point.
There's a problem, though. Of course, there's so many people who have no ones.
Right.
And so they feel they can often take it. My kids are grown, my kids are in private school, and, I did my part, and they don't want to support the increases.
I think it's about conversation. Everyone wants to see that the tax dollars are used wisely. And as a school board member, I want to make sure. And this is why I want to take another close look at the budget. Areas like consultants, the size of the administration, all these things are areas to look at, right? But the bottom line is 80+% of the budget is teacher salary. So I would definitely want to work on communication, the messaging, and how do you shape a message that reflects on how the school system is a critical part of all of your services, like the fields, like of all your services in the community, and how we are, and what makes your property values go up, and what makes demonstrate how this impacts the broader community.
If you go and talk to any realtor, right? How do they sell you the house? They always tell you what schools your kids can go to. Education is that important. People buy real estate at a very high price based largely on what schools they. We can do that because we have quality schools. But we have to make
quality schools.
We have quality schools. And we just need to make that case. And we need to make it as combined with county board, school board. But the school board has to go out there and actually message that. That's what we can do.
We're coming up on 1 hour. So what I propose is that each take 2 minutes to summarize, tell us your website and so on. And then if you want to hang around with us, I'll stay for as long as you want while Larry finishes his pancake. Let's at least
Could I have one quick question? I mean, I could have a quick answer. Having suffered for 5 years, one thing to me is very important is class size. Like Larry, 28, 30 students in a physics class, doesn't make it. Is there anything you can do, given that we're not going to build like a new high school, to finish that is reasonable as possible?
And the short answer is it's not physical, it's teachers.
Just, there's the room and
Yeah.
you got the money to pay the teachers to
Yeah.
actually utilize.
We've
those
lost
spaces.
teachers. We're bleeding teachers, serious.
Lots of them, pandemic.
Yeah.
Baby boomer retirements.
Well, why don't we get back to the 2-minute closing statement? Who wants to go first?
Sometimes
Okay. Right, yeah. So to me, my main thing is that I have a lot of experience over many years. I've done Science Advisory Committee, chair of the Advisory Committee on Instruction, kind of council PTA's president, that. So with that experience, the value of that is